We're talking about the largest drug bust in Manitoban history. Number of 33 people arrested and a huge amount of drug, $37.2 million dollars of cocaine, meth, fentanyl has been taken off the streets of Manitoba. It has been a 2 year investigation, as we've been told. Project Puma, congratulations, first of all. And if you could elaborate the operation for us a bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that was a 2 year investigation. It spanned three provinces: Alberta, Ontario, and Manitoba. And it was focusing on an organization that was trafficking drugs into the country through mostly over the land border, using commercial trucking, and then having it shipped to a place in Edmonton and a place in Vaughan, Ontario, where they were stashing the drugs. And from there, they would be pieced out to people who were dealing. So our targets would travel there, pick up a load, so it'd be several kilos of whether it's cocaine or methamphetamine or fentanyl, and then bring it back to Winnipeg, and then sell those drugs in Winnipeg and throughout the province.
When did this exactly start? From where did you get your lead? And what was actually going on when you felt that now this is going huge?
Well, the organized crime unit originally received information in 2023. They began working on it at that point, and when they realized the extent of what they had, it became a project later on. So, but not too much farther after that.
What all jurisdictional police agencies were approached by the Winnipeg Police Services and the Organized Crime Unit to, get through this operation, to conduct the operation, and what kind of support did you get from them? Because you've mentioned 14 partner agencies across the provinces also that you've mentioned.
Yeah. So when we realized that either the drugs are being stored or sold in different areas, whether it's throughout Manitoba or in Ontario or in Alberta, we engaged the local law enforcement there to provide us assistance with different types like surveillance and stuff like that. And because it's within their jurisdictions, it's harder for us to go there and do that job, considering we're police officers for Winnipeg and in Manitoba. So that's where the assistance from those other agencies came in. With the agencies within Manitoba, there's a lot more collaboration there as well, because it's easier for us to move around in the province. So we did a lot of work with earlier on with Morden and Brandon and Winkler, targeting some people who are dealing in those areas.
33 charges that we've been told about. Are there more charges to follow as well?
I believe it's 174 charges, 33 people arrested. There will be more charges because there's two individuals we're still looking for who are wanted right now. And so after that, the project's pretty much concluded. So I don't anticipate any further charges. But so in total, we did have 100 and I believe 74 charges combined.
We want to take a deep dive on this. What exactly was the modus operandi of the drug smugglers? How were these drugs being smuggled? Where was it being taken from? Where was it coming from? And how did Manitoba and Winnipeg geographically support, and how did Winnipeg end up in this?
Well, I can't go too deep into
Yeah, not
exactly
compromising the
the investigation.
investigation.
There's a lot
Yes.
still before the court. But generally, what would happen is the drugs would come over the border, typically in Ontario, uh, through commercial transport vehicles. They would then be divvied up in certain areas, whether that truck continues on or it moves into another vehicle, and then they would store some in Ontario, store some in Alberta, and people who were going to sell it on the street at the street level would go back and forth between those locations to get more drugs to bring back here. Generally, Winnipeg is involved because we're the center of Canada, so everything that's coming east or west has to pass through Winnipeg. And we have traffickers who realize that if they sell not only the drugs in Winnipeg, but then they take them up north to northern communities, vulnerable communities, and other rural communities, they're going to make a lot more money. So if you take them up north, the drug prices are twice as much as they are here. So it's purely they're taking it there for profit because they know that it is easier for them to sell it there. It's rural, it's isolated. There's not as much law enforcement there. There's not as many eyes on those traffickers, and because they know that some of these communities have an addiction issue, they feel a lot more comfortable operating in those communities. They don't think that there's a lot of risk to them.
When we talk about drugs entering through Ontario, it sounds transnational. So, what nation or what organizations are operating from what nations? And do you think that the Canadian trucking routes are also exploited? Because you did mention they are coming through trucks.
Yes, the trucking industry is exploited in that way, absolutely. And it also involves an element of human trafficking. We've seen where some of the drivers may bring the stuff over the border because they're told if you don't do what we tell you, we're going to make sure that your visa gets canceled and that you're kicked out of the country. That does happen. There's also I think instances where they're getting paid, they make money to do it. So we see both of that. With respect to the organizations involved, as I mentioned yesterday at the news conference, we have people who are linked to Wolfpack Alliance, Hells Angels, and Mexican cartels.
Is fentanyl still the biggest threat on the Canadian streets? Do you believe that?
It depends on areas of the country, areas of the province. I can tell you in Winnipeg, fentanyl is the third highest illicit drug that we seize. Usually it's either cocaine or meth and then fentanyl.
Perfect. When police spends years building projects like Project Puma as such, what are the biggest challenges when arrests happen?
Uh, I would say when you're looking at an investigation that's spanning many provinces, the logistics of making those arrests, getting everything in order to effect those arrests, and then we're dealing with different types of judicial authorizations as well, and getting those enacted in other provinces. So there are many challenges to running an investigation that has multiple provinces involved or multiple locations involved even. So that would, I would say, be one of the main challenges. The logistics, as I said the other day too, is that this type of investigation very expensive. That's why we are able to get funding from the Manitoba Criminal Intelligence Center, which really helps us out with continuing on with a lengthy investigation.
At the press conference, a sentence stood out to me. It's a lot more than what you see. Can you expand on that?
Well, I would use I guess the example that what we seized in this investigation. So when we executed a search warrant in Vaughan, Ontario, we seized, I believe it was at the time, over 200 kilograms of methamphetamine. That would come off of a truck, typically that came over the border. On that truck, there may have been 600 kilos of methamphetamine, and it was parsed out wherever that truck ended up, and then it likely moved on to another province. So, and that's one truck. So we know that there are multiple ways that drugs come into the country, whether it's by land, by rail, or by seaport, by air. So this is, I would say, a drop in the bucket in terms of how many drugs are out there, but it's a large drop in that bucket. We did seize a lot, and it does make an impact. But we know that there are a lot more drugs coming into the country, typically from the U.S., than what we seized.
For sure it is. And when we talk about links to cartels like the Mexican cartel, Hells Angel, Wolfpack Alliance, do you think they're hiding behind big names in the country right now? Like they're hiding in plain sight behind big multinational businesses, logistics, finance, supply chains, and that we not know about them right now?
I would say that it's definitely likely throughout the country. I can't say to this investigation in particular, but I would say that yeah, that is likely somewhere in the country.
Is there any work or is there any operation or any project that's going on to combat smuggling of drugs across the the Canadian and American border?
Well, we do work with the American our American counterparts on many different investigations. So we have had communication ongoing for years with them. It's something that we try to do regularly, and it's we have a good relationship with them. So I can't speak to any specific investigation right now, but we do communicate with them regularly.
But border vulnerabilities are becoming a growing concern right now. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
My last question to you is Project Puma. Again, congratulations. We are very happy to see that the Winnipeg streets have been, again, we still have a sense of confidence that now they're safe. The amount of drug that has been pulled back does give a sense of relief. But my question, the last question, is that there have also been drug busts in the past as well, not in Manitoba, but in other provinces of the country. How do you think that we put an end to this whole drug bust thing? Is there an end to this?
Possibly, yes, there is, but there are many ways that people can exploit different laws, different services, different entities to be successful in bringing drugs into the country and selling them. So it's law enforcement's job is try to keep up on top of that and to stop them wherever we can. You know, make it so that no more drugs are coming into the country. I think there is always going to be a way that somebody is going to find some type of loophole to either get drugs into the country or move them around the country. So it's just doing the best job we can to make it harder and harder for them to do that.
Perfect. To all the Winnipeggers listening to you right now, how would you like to describe them the intensity of what has been combated?
I think that Project Puma has made a significant impact on especially the local drug trafficking landscape. But again, my message to the community is that we need to work with them as much as we work with our law enforcement partners. So if people in the community have information about someone who is doing this, they need to contact the police and let us know. There's many ways they can do it. They could do it anonymously through Crime Stoppers. They can call a police station. If they know a police officer, they can talk to that officer and find out what's the best way to go about providing the information. They can provide it through other community agencies that we work with, and they can provide us information. And we do that regularly as well. So I would just say that, we're more successful in stopping drug trafficking in the city or combating it and disrupting it when we have the community involved and our law enforcement partners and government agencies involved as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us and be on the show with us. I hope to see you soon with another yet achievement. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.